commissioner for my district and for my people that call me and ask questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we got to move along here. I really appreciate you guys coming in. We are going to discuss this more. I think where I'm at right now, I think we're going to kick it back to the zoning board to do some more.
That would be my suggestion. As chairman of the board of zoning board.
I received a lot of phone calls lately of people that haven't had a chance to express their opinions.
It's 2 weeks between each meeting, right?
You
Does it
have to
be in the
post a
paper?
notice in the paper for a public hearing for 2 weeks in the paper prior to the hearing date.
One question I got, have you guys had any public meeting in Wells County about the whole project, just total overview of it?
I mean, like the physical location.
Just the whole
Right.
project.
So it was more convenient for those
Yeah,
folks?
in Wells
The
County.
Wells folks have joined meetings. I think all of our meetings have been in New Rockford to date. But we'd be happy to have one of those meetings and invite the Eddy folks and the Wells. We always invite everybody together. We don't separate the counties. So we'd be happy to make it easier for the Wells folks.
Just have a total overview of the whole
Absolutely.
project plan.
Yeah,
and-
Yeah,
absolutely.
Would you
That's
guys
what we'd
want
like
to
to
do
do.
that at the zoning meeting?
Well,
I would wait until I'll bring it up and then you guys can make a motion on it
On our next zoning meeting.
for the ordinances that I have to bring to you.
once we get to X on our agenda, we'll deal with it. But
You don't need any time to have a public forum on something.
Yeah, we'd be happy to have a public forum to provide that, provide a meal, whatever.
Information.
And information. It might be kind of hard logistically to pull it off before the next planning commission meeting, but we probably could do it, you know, if you kick it back to the planning commission and then it's going to come back here in a month, I'm sure we could pull something together before that, you know, we could try to do it before the planning commission meeting, but, you know, it's kind of hard to get notice out to folks in just a 2-week period, but certainly before the next commission meeting, we could pull a meeting together.
Especially if you can tell us which are the rainy days.
Yeah,
okay,
right.
Be a good plan.
We could use a couple of those right now.
Uh-huh.
I got a question and a couple comments. I agree that it should go back to the zoning board in that,
Right.
as chairman in that last meeting, we only heard one side of the story. And even the group after the meeting thought, with this kind of backlash, how would this ever take place to begin with, because there's no one for this. Well, it wasn't objective, and 4 people from Eddy County dictated, you know, that meeting, and I just feel that we didn't receive all the information, and I would recommend that should go back to the zoning board, because Brian, we deal with most of your questions have come to a zoning board meeting, and that'll get addressed. My question is, in a couple of these zoning boards, and now, we got to define a little bit as to, I'll make this up, whatever the distance is, with a variance. You wouldn't have any problems getting a variance less than a mile, less than a half mile, whatever, from residents that have towers on their land, would you?
No.
And a lot of those cases, so that would be easy, wouldn't it?
Well, those ones would be participating landowners.
Right.
So, yeah.
That's accommodated here.
Yep.
That was
Yep,
the
yep.
point of the question that I brought up.
None of
If the
these,
tower was on their land, they wouldn't have an issue.
Well, but if we enact a zoning board rule of a mile setback, they would have to get a variance to make that less.
If that's the way your language ends up reading, for sure, we would do
But that'd
whatever
be
we-
easy,
yeah.
right?
That,
For
those
the
ones
most
would
part.
be easy, because
Those
those people
people.
are already supportive.
none of these houses are supportive.
And here is
None of these, right.
the issue with the timeline as it exists right now. It does very little good to go back to planning and zoning prior to this public forum occurring. That has to occur first. Otherwise,
But they've had a lot of public forums.
no, you won't have, you're not gonna have anybody else here show up that's gonna be an advocate for this, other than the people you've already seen. They'll come back.
Right.
Okay? So I think a public forum in Wells County almost has to occur first before you go back to planning and zoning. Otherwise, what's the point of going back to planning and zoning?
Yeah.
The planning and zoning meets on Monday nights, is that right?
What's that?
Is it Monday nights that planning meets?
It varies.
Depends on
We used
schedules.
to meet once every 2 years. It's way more
Well-
often here lately.
If,
Yeah, we got,
So you could put that at the
We
end of the
gotta
month.
talk to the public
There's
before the
people
next
that
zoning
call
meeting,
and
that's
said
what we
they
gotta
haven't
do.
got the opportunity.
No question, but, you know, there's 3,800 people living in Wells County who, most are not affected by this today. But 20 years from now, 15 years from now, it may be the next project.
Well, and that's my concern. We're really doing this, because this is minor, and I don't mean to belittle this, but our ordinances or zoning affects the future over and above this current project.
well, I would suspect if you were to have a zoning meeting on a night other than a Monday, we probably could pull together, you know, a community meeting the night before, or, you know, if we're talking 2 weeks out, and, you know, if your meeting is on a Monday, then we have to back it up into the week before, which is just really hard to find a location, get notification out to people. But if you met, if the zoning board met on a date other than a Monday, we could perhaps have the meeting on a Monday night of the same week that the zoning board, and if it's 2 weeks out, we could get on it tomorrow to make sure that we have a venue and we get notification out so that we could pull the meeting together to have something prior to.
So your short answer is you're flexible. You can
Absolutely,
deal with it,
yeah.
right.
We'll let you guys put that together. You gotta wait 2 weeks.
Yep.
right? Yeah, and then.
Well-
I can't speak for anybody else, but I sit on the planning and zoning, and nobody else has to explain why they do what they do, but I'll tell you that no one in our presence spoke favorably about this other than one letter, which is included with this deck of cards here, of people who do now advocate for this project, who may or may not be landowners themselves. And so when you make a decision of any kind, you have to listen to your constituency, and frankly, who have we heard from? People who don't want this project to go forward.
Right. And most of them were from Eddy County.
And that's true too.
Well, you gotta remember, we're doing a Wells County zone.
Well, and in hindsight, you know, as chairman there, and I finally did say that if you're from Eddy County, you can't talk anymore after an hour and a half. But it's an open forum, so I'm not as good with Robert's Rules of Orders that do you let anybody speak or how do you limit that? And yeah, and part of that, what we heard was okay to do that, but it wasn't objective in that, like Dan said, you didn't hear both sides of the story.
So would it be safe to say, excuse me, would it be safe to say that if Eddy County decides not to do it, there's no sense to pursue here? I'm just asking a simple question, because they got more than we do.
We still need the zoning.
We need
Yeah,
zoning.
that I understand. I'm just asking you guys a question.
If they decide not to do
Yeah,
what?
if Eddy County says, you know, they vote, whatever they vote.
I'm a little incredulous along that line that I've heard this before from other people in that whatever Wells County does, Eddy County will more than likely do too. They're
We've heard that.
the big boys in this
Right,
project.
that's what I'm asking.
Why would they even listen to
It's
us?
obvious, the cool kids live in it.
I didn't think we had that kind of clout.
But this zoning is down the road for everything for us.
Yeah.
You guys, I don't
This is
see
where
any
it
oil wells
starts.
in Wells County in the near future. We've got two options for outside sources. It's either wind or solar. And I'm not one way or the other, but I think everybody's got to keep an open mind here.
Well, I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion that we table the vote on setbacks for wind towers today and that we transfer it back to the zoning board.
After.
Well, we'll work out the details.
Okay. I'll accept that motion. Is there a second? Second?
I'll second that.
Second, Brian Miller. Any discussion on it? And you'll kind of set that up as soon as you can?
Yep, yeah, I mean, yeah.
We'll have to, yeah. Any other discussion?
I think we just, have to hear more sides, get more information.
I agree, yeah. Everybody keep an open mind and get as much information as you can. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you. We'll work with Janet and make sure that we can get something set up prior to whenever the zoning and planning meeting
Very
is.
good, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Jana, you want to? Oh, there you, sorry.
As she's coming up, can we get, to remain objective here, the Burleigh County guy who drove here and didn't get to say anything, can we get his phone number or card so we have a reference to what goes on here?
Actually, being you drove all the way here, would you like to make any comments?
I can if you want.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
I was a contractor for 27 years. We bought some land out southeast of Wilton. My dad did. I bought some more. We built a cattle ranch. I built a 1,000 head of feedlot now, and we're down about 300 more cows. I'm not a contractor anymore, but when I was a contractor, I built a building for the wind tower company that built that project. All those towers are within a half a mile. There's several towers within a half a mile of our place. We don't have a tower on our land that we don't get paid from the wind tower companies. It was a different time then. They don't.
You kind of got the short end of the
They
stick.
didn't do. Yeah, we did a little bit. Yeah, there was a neighbor over there that didn't care that we bought that property, and we kind of got pushed out a little bit. Since then, I got on the township board. I am the chairman of the township board now. So actually, I'm not the chairman anymore. 2 years ago, I stepped down because I told me that I need to train somebody else because I'm on my way out of this deal. But it's been super good for our community. I built the building for them, so I kind of feel like I got a little feather in my hat there. They paid for my house when I built it at the ranch, basically from the money I earned from building their building. They've also given money to the schools. My kids' high school rodeo and junior high rodeo, they sponsor a saddle for a high school finals every year for the past eight years, I think. We're adding on to our school right now. My wife was on the school board for the last 11 years, and she has since just stepped down because it's been 11 years. She's like, that's long enough. But they got it all set up. They're adding on to the school right now, and she was part of getting that all started. And we went around and got money from the power plants, the Knife River, and the wind farm, and they all came and contributed money to keep everybody else from having to pay more taxes on that. But, so there will be people on the map that have, that are getting towers. They'll be directly impacted financially, positively. There'll also be people in your community that will be directly or indirectly financially impacted positively by owning a bar or owning a restaurant or having some kind of service that they provide or whatever. And there'll also be probably 8 to 10 jobs out of last year for the life of that wind farm. That guys that are farmers, ranchers, their kids go off to lineman school. They can come back and get a job. They'll still help their dad farm. They'll still run cows, whatever they want to do. There's actually a couple guys right from our community that work there now, and their families own farms. It brings a lot of money to your county. When they put the roads in, when they built that, at the end of it, they gave us a bunch of money to redo all our roads. They put 400 yards of gravel on every road. So then about 10 years ago, they had some new fancy generators on that they put in, and then they went around and did all that. So then they give us enough money to do our roads again, another 400 yards a mile. About 2 years ago, they just changed all the blades on because they got a better blade now. Here they come again, give us
enough money to do our 400 yards a mile of road. So we actually have enough money set aside for bridge funds, we have road, special road funds, because we can only keep as a township so much money in our bid. So we have to create other funds to help with that. It's been very good for our community. You know, you're gonna find that people that don't get direct money are like, oh, I don't want no land farm. And you're gonna find that people that do get direct money go, yeah, it's a good thing. There's gonna be a line. But I think,
Yeah, we found that out.
I think that overall, after the smoke clears and everybody gets done, the thing is there, it's a good, been good for our community.
I'm glad to hear they get involved in the community.
They do get involved in the community. They stepped right up on it. We talked about building a school and, you know, like taking care of our roads. We actually bought all of our gravel from the Knife River over to Tuttle and shipped it over because the county's gravel was kind of crappy, to be honest with you. And you can ask the maintenance guys who's got the best roads in the county, Eklund Township. So,
Well, thank you.
it's been positive for us. Some people don't like them, but it's been a positive experience.
Well, I know for every naysayer, you can definitely find positive also.
Well, they're looking at putting another field in down by us, which, and I believe they have all the acres signed up, and it didn't take long because they're there and they've proved that it's a positive impact on the community.
Great. Thank you, sir.
All right.
What's your first name? Thank you.
Can I make one comment?
You're from Wilton.
So, I'm from Eddy County, and I heard one of my neighbors was over here making a ruckus at their last meeting.
Oh, yeah.
And I wanted to know that
You got a lot of
he speaks for the
neighbors.
majority. He speaks for the minority. You know, most of us, just about all of us, are in favor of the towers. We're going to have 3 on our land, and we don't really look forward to it. So I came in case he was here today, and he's probably not going to be renting land from us anymore. But there's lots of us that are very in favor of this project, both personally and for the county, for the roads, for the township, for the schools, for all that kind of stuff. So I just want to say I'm very in favor of the project, and I hope the thing works out.
Okay, thank you, sir. I guess we're gonna move on. I got one last comment too. If you guys get a chance to talk to John Wold, he said it's the best thing ever happened to Emmons County. For their finance.
Logan?
John Wold.
John Wold.
Emmons
Logan.
Logan.
Big John.
That's Walton County though, isn't it?
That's Logan.
Logan.
By Napoleon,
Logan.
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 John Wall.
Not Evans.
And they have- and just FYI, they have a 1,250-foot setback, because their auditor sent me their zoning board.
That's the state recommendation,
The
right?
state recommendation's 1,800.
Okay, yeah.
Right.
So
1250
that's why
was
I'm hung up.
developed.
Why do we try and reinvent the wheel here,
Exactly.
you know? Okay, Jana.
So what do you want to start with?
There
The abatement first, please.
I'll give you all a copy of the map. There was an abatement, 1 year was approved, 1 year was denied, and I was over it with you. This is in Bremen Township.
How come Bremen Township always comes up?
This is Edward O'Connor's land. The part that you can see in the heavy white outline is what was being requested for a wetland modifier. The requirements for a wetland modifier is to be 2 wet,
2 pieces?
2 pieces,
Oh, I see.
39.83 and 31.75 acres.
Yeah.
The requirements are to be 2 wet to grow a crop or graze animals for 3 of the past 5 years. So what Bremen Township did is they denied for 2023 because they were able to pay it in 2023, and they could not remember too much prior to 2023. And in 2024, they have approved it for 5 years. So we would adjust for 2024 if approved by you. For 2024, 25, 26, 27, and 28, and then 29, they'd have to reapply for that wetland modifier. What it does is it takes whatever dollar per acre per soil type that it is valued at, and reduces it down to 10% of the non-crop dollar per acre, which is roughly $17 an acre valuation. So essentially, if
It's
I haven't
tax.
done the math, but it's about $250 refund.
So it's basically tax-free for the next 5 years.
Yeah, it'd be basically, they'd be paying maybe $50 in
Yeah.
taxes. There's something there, but not a lot.
And it's non-productive.
Is this common this happens or not?
There's quite a few wetland modifiers, generally speaking. We have not gotten a heck of a lot of abatements for it. We've just gone from the year in which we are in currently forward. So this is one of the first abatements that I've seen for wetland modifiers.
And the township approved it.
For 24, not for 23. So you would want to, if you want to follow what the township has done, you'd want to motion to deny 23 and approve 24.
Yeah,
So we want to make a motion?
I made the last one.
I'll make a motion to accept it.
For the 23?
24.
24? Okay. Motion made by Brian Walt, is there a second? Looking for a second?
Second, I will
Thank you.
second.
Boone, second. Any discussion? Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Braintree?
Either that or the fee schedule.
Let's start with this one. This is the Braintree electric application. The zoning board voted to recommend to approve the application.
I don't even, yeah.
Okay.
Zoning board gets us in all kinds of trouble.
I'll make a motion to approve this. They're digging a line under the highway. It's,
Oh, yes, this, we've been talking about this 3 different times already.
Motion made by Stan, sounds like second by Boone.
Yeah, this needs to get done.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
So then the last one.
Kind of hard on the trees today, huh?
What's that?
Kind of hard on the trees today, huh?
Yeah. I put both on one, so. Let's see. The first one that you want to approve, and I'll explain what it is the fee schedule. The fee schedule that was changed was only for conditional use application permits. It is originally to get a hearing with the zoning board under a conditional use permit. It was a cost of $50. Well, that hardly even covers the cost to put a notice in the paper for 2 weeks. So what they did is they changed it from $50 to 0.10% of the cost of the project, with a minimum of $500 fee and a maximum of $2,000 fee. Anytime that we have a public hearing, whoever sits on our board gets $50 per meeting plus mileage. So at least $500 would at least cover the cost of everybody to show up, you know, because if we have 10 people show up, that's $500 right there. I brought it to the board because I felt it was better to have some of the offset of the cost of a fee to be not through the county and put it more onto whomever the project is coming from.
I agree.
Sounds good. Need a motion?
Yeah. Brian Miller made a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Brian Walt, second. Any discussion? Any other discussion? Sounds good. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay, so the final one is one that's been quite the topic of discussion. I know that right now the zoning board approved to bring to you a zoning setback for wind turbines of 5,280 feet or 1 mile with an option of a variance. If you so choose, you can either, I think it's legal to change the 1 mile to a half mile, because the zoning board only can recommend what you should do. Otherwise, you can send it back to the zoning board, and I can work with them to set up another public hearing and have them do their public whatever.
Well,
Prior-
correct me now, I made that motion a bit ago, right, that we table that and turn it back.
That's already going,
So tonight.
already going back to the zoning board, right?
Yeah.
Right, that's what I thought.
Okay, so tonight is our zoning, we have a public hearing on township roads, and then we have a regular meeting after in which we can set a public hearing date to discuss wind towers again at another date and time.
Can I ask you guys a question on the zoning board? I don't want to pick on you, but the state recommends 1,800 feet, and you guys went to 5,280. What
We didn't
problem-
think it would be safe to leave the
What-
building had we not changed it that
Is that
night.
what prompted that?
Really and truly, there
Were
was
ya?
no conversation for anything less
They
than
were
that.
very strong opinions that night, those 2 nights actually.
So why didn't you go with the state recommendation?
And
Because you don't have to approve whatever comes out of planning and zoning, it's
Yeah.
gonna get rehashed here
Right.
at some point in time. So you put something forward, and originally the recommendation, and I'm the one who made it, wasn't gonna be less than a half mile, nor was it gonna be more than a mile, and I don't think the words were out of my mouth for 6 seconds, and I make a motion to make it a mile, and so that happened. And having not a person in the room in favor of anything less than that, you kinda gotta listen to the constituents.
And here was the other thing, we were short-sighted on the whole deal in that Valhalla has their own zoning, okay? They were there, and Berlin says, if you don't make it a mile, we're gonna get out of the county and we're gonna have our own zoning.
And Bremen.
Or Bremen, I'm sorry.
right,
Yeah, Bremen. So it's a moot issue. If they're gonna do their own thing, because that's the only place they're, however, this is for the future, and that's why I'm tabling and getting it back. But at that point, we thought, well, what's the difference? It doesn't matter to us.
Well, if we turn our backs to, this is economic development.
I know it.
here. This is one of our only other sources of income. If we got a 3% cap, and we're gonna turn our back to other economic development, that is totally not gonna be good.
At the end of the day, you 5 get to decide.
Yeah, I know.
Right.
I know.
The zoning board only recommends.
he sat right there and said he would talk to these people about a mile setback with the variance. I heard him, he said it, that he could talk to these people.
Well, he would have to.
Boom,
And he also said that
Yeah.
it doesn't pay to talk to them because they won't agree to it.
boom, that goes back to good neighbor policy. Since
But
when-
they have that too.
There
They
is,
have a good neighbor policy.
how many neighbors do you see getting along nowadays?
They're gonna have to. They're gonna have to.
No, they're not. That's up
What
to
I
us.
should have asked him, and that's down the road, can you put a minimum dollar amount in that permit that people that don't have a tower would get?
The way he spoke, it sounded like you could make it an ordinance, where you would have an additional thing that you would add to your wind tower ordinance 12.
Yeah.
And then you would say that, you know, those who would be affected within such and such distance would have a fee allotted to them of such
Okay.
and such amount.
But
That's what he hinted
wouldn't that be a
at.
good,
No, that ain't
Well, that's
necessary.
what.
because right now, it's public, I mean, right now, it's $1,500 a year.
And they're for it.
Can we put in the language more than that?
I don't know.
There's nothing in our language, but he almost alluded to that fact. And that's not a debate for a meeting like this, but it would be good to ask him. You follow me?
I follow you.
You follow, everybody follows me?
No, not usually.
Okay, this guy's got a tower on his land that's getting $14,000 a year, and over here, there's a guy a half mile away that's getting $1,500 a year.
Yeah.
I don't think that's right. This should be 11,000, and this should be
Right.
4.
But in the case of the guy from Wilton, to start with, they didn't get anything.
They still don't.
I know.
I know.
But now, at least the guys.
I'm wondering if you can put wordage in the ordinance, but is that really being too restrictive? I don't know. Well, we can ask, that's his own board.
But they'll have a meeting with the public before we have a zoning board to decide.
Well, that's what I think tonight you want to discuss, what day you want to have a public hearing to discuss wind towers again.
But legalistically, we could make a motion tonight to change that. right?
At a regular meeting, you could do it to change it, but then you have to have a public hearing 2 weeks later
Right,
to approve it at a public.
right. You guys understand that anytime a zoning board has any kind of change, and reason we're having a meeting